Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be why you struggle to make money. Well, if you're working in a job, career, or a business where you're struggling to make money, things just don't seem to be flowing or coming easy, this is the right video for you. I've got one email I'm going to go through with you today, and half of my clients that I coach and I work with and I do phone sessions with are all either career coaching, business coaching, or finding a different job. As a matter of fact, the guy that I just talked to a little while ago was working at a job for about 2 months, and the guy that hired him was really enthusiastic about him when he hired him, and he was telling him how he expected him to work real hard, and he reminded him of himself when he was his age and this kind of thing. And just recently, about a week ago, he got fired from this particular job. And the guy that hired him brought him in along with a human resources person. He's thinking, hey, I'm about to get a raise. This is great. And then the guy that hired him gets up and leaves and says, so-and-so's got some things to discuss with you. And then after he leaves, because he's a fucking coward, the human resources person basically says, you're being terminated today. Oh, goody. That's always fun and exciting. And when we first started talking at the beginning of the conversation, I was like, well, why'd you get fired? Why'd they let you go? And he's like, you know what, man? I don't know. They didn't give me any reasons or explanations. I called and sent them an email the next day, and they just completely ignored me. And so as we got into his phone session and I started asking him questions and also helping him discover what his driving force needs are. In other words, what are the things that he really loves, that he's really passionate about? And those things that he loves and he has a passion for, what are the hot buttons that it pushes? What are the things that really are compelling to him? And as he started going through these things, then we went back and started talking about the job that he had just gotten fired from. And I asked him a few questions, and it became obvious to me because I've hired and fired a lot of people in my day, especially back when I used to be in real estate. And what it really boiled down to was he just didn't like the job. He was excited about it at first, but there were days where he was going in and the lunch breaks, he was taking a little bit longer to get back after lunch. He really wasn't staying late. He wasn't working his ass off like the guy that hired him had said that's what he expected of him. Now, why didn't he work his ass off? Because he didn't like the job. It wasn't exciting. We thought it was going to be one thing, and then when he started working there, it really sucked. And you probably heard me say that most people tend to work just hard enough to not get fired. Well, this guy didn't even do that. He just didn't put in the effort and the passion. It was obvious that his passion wasn't there for this particular position. And since it was a new position that he had to completely learn from the ground up, since he didn't have a passion for it, he just simply was not going to apply himself because he didn't like doing it to begin with. And that is so important to get that part right when you're choosing a job, a career, or a business to go into, is you really have to have a passion for the product or the service or whatever it is that you're going into. Because if you don't, you'll never do what it takes. If you're an employee working for a company, you'll never do what it takes in order to become CEO just because you don't love it. You're not excited about it. It's not compelling to you. And that is huge. And if you're think about it, if you spend most of your time working in a job or a career or a business that you just can't stand, it's really going to affect your ability to motivate yourself to go to the gym, to motivate yourself to eat a healthy meal, to motivate yourself to do the little things that are necessary in your relationships, your friendships, your intimate relationships. Because if you're spending most of your week at a job you hate or being in business with business partners you fucking can't stand, that's going to affect every area of your life. It's demoralizing. It saps your energy. I had another client that I talked to today. Same thing. He's been working in this particular career, this business, for about 14, 15 years now. And since he's been working on this for this company, he's got options that he's been hoping this company is going to become acquired because his company was originally acquired by this particular company. And then once they're acquired, then he can finally leave and go do something he really wants to do. And I was like, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, how emotionally compelling is this job to you? He's like, dude, it's a fucking 0 right now. And so he's struggling in every area of his life, and you could hear it in his voice. He just, like I said to him, I said, you sound like a dog that's just been beat down, dude. And he's got some things that he's really passionate about and he really loves, And he just really hasn't been spending his time focusing on those things because he's so miserable. It takes all of his energy and effort just to motivate himself to go and do his job. Even though he's earning multiple six figures in the job that he has, he fucking absolutely detests. On a scale of 1 to 10, when it's a 0, you fucking detest the job. But part of his other problem he was having, in times in the past when he's worked at the things that he really loved, what happens is he tends to look at the big picture of everything that needs to be accomplished in order to be successful at it. And so what happens is, he in essence is like the guy that looks at Mount Everest and goes, wow, that's a really big mountain. Whew, that would take a lot of effort to climb that mountain. God, I don't know if I could make it. And he just would quit and give up and avoid it altogether. And so what was happening is, when he was focusing on doing the things that he really loved, he'd start living in the future. He'd start worrying about what may or may not happen in the future down the road of the work that he's working on, whether it would be appreciated or not. And so what happened was, since he's worried about what may or may not happen in the future, he's not focused on what he needed to do right now. It's like the old adage of, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time. And that was part of his problem. When he was working at the things that he really loved, sometimes he would work at it for years, and then just after a while, after working at it for a couple of years, he would just quit. And so I asked him, so what's the process? What were you thinking? What were you feeling each time you gave up and you quit on the things that you really had a passion for? Well, when it came to monetizing his passion, he became overwhelmed at all the things that he had to do, instead of just focusing on, what do I need to do right now today before I go to bed in order to accomplish this particular project. And everybody's different. It's all the story that we tell ourselves and the things that we get in our head. So one of the things this guy was doing, he was using alcohol to numb himself. So instead of coming home every night and working on something he really has a passion for while he's working his six-figure job during the day and building a nice little business on the side, he's just coming home and escaping from life because he's so miserable at work. And obviously it affects his relationships and his ability to have a good relationship with somebody, because he's just absolutely miserable. And that's one of the things I love about this, because by the end of the phone session when I'm working with people like this, you can tell, you can hear it in their voice. They're more positive, they're more optimistic. Now they can see a way through the forest, so to speak. They can see a way to get to where they want to go. So I've got a quote that I wrote on this particular topic, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into this guy's email. And the quote says, "Entrepreneurs and people on commission don't mind the struggle or not making money because they believe in themselves. It's exciting for them to imagine and work towards the day that they make it and their hard work pays off. They experience fear and uncertainty, but they thrive in that environment. Entrepreneurs and commission salespeople like their independence and depending upon themselves to produce results. They like the challenge. Those who have an employee mentality are better suited to a steady paycheck they can count on to pay their bills. They tend to prefer structure and regimented atmosphere where they know what to do and what is expected of them. If you choose a job or career that is not aligned with your true nature, it will be a significant challenge to feel happy and fulfilled. Being unhappy in a job, career, or business will negatively affect your health, relationships, finances, and your ability to find consistent joy in your life. The more passion you feel for your chosen profession, the harder you will work at it, and the more your earning potential will increase as your experience and skill set grows." Like I say all the time, repetition is the mother of skill. You look at somebody like a Justin Bieber or a Michael Jackson. I mean, like Justin Bieber, that kid's been singing literally since the time he was old enough to walk and talk. He just innately started doing what he was passionate about. And he had parents that were loving and supported and encouraged this and gave him the lessons and gave him the support that he needed so he could become all he's capable of. And he's one of the most successful artists in the world to this day. And the average person looks at it and goes, oh, well, he was just born that way. He was just lucky. Well, yeah, he had a support system around him, but he pursued the things that he really loved and he had a passion for. And you looked at Michael Jackson. I mean, he was performing with the Jackson 5, his family, when he was a little kid. And when you dance and you rehearse and you perform from the time you're a child, or you play basketball or football or some other kind of sport, you're going to become good at it, especially when you really love it and you have a passion for it. Because when you love something and you have a passion for it, when you're working at it, it won't seem like work. You'll stay up till 4 in the morning. You'll go without sleep. You'll go without eating. You'll sleep on, like, I mean, the business that I have now, I went from making $500,000 a year when I was in real estate to being willing to sleep on my dad's couch until I got this business to the point where I was doing well, because I basically spent, because it took me so many years to figure out my business model. And people say, well, gee, Corey, why didn't you go and do something else and earn a good living? I was like, because it would have interfered with my coaching practice. And besides, I didn't want to do anything else other than what I was doing. Now, to me, it didn't seem like work. It's like what Confucius said. Choose a job that you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. And that's what we're talking about. Remember, most of your time is going to be spent working in a job or a career or a business during your work week. And a lot of people have the mindset, oh, I have to do something I don't like to earn a paycheck. And if you're one of those people that has the attitude of, gee, I don't know what I want to do with my life. When somebody has watched some of the videos that I've done on discovering your purpose and some of the other videos that are related to that, and they still go, gee, I don't know what I want to do, what's happening is they've got their personal story and their belief system that is in conflict with their goals and their dreams. In other words, deep down, they kind of know what they'd really like to go and explore and do, but their personal story that they tell themselves inhibits them from even considering looking in the direction of what their passions are, or even doing any kind of research to discover what they could potentially do job-wise, career-wise, or business-wise to where they could do something they really have a passion for. And that's one of the things I love helping people, is get past all that bullshit and get to the root issue of what's really driving them, what you're really passionate about. So let's jump into the guy's email. He says, hey, Coach, my primary issue right now revolves around my career. I'm 25 years old, and I've served 7 years in the military. Thank you for your service, by the way. He says, my experience in the military has shown me that I have a passion for leading people, understanding people, and working in a group environment. Well, that's important. You just told me part of your driving force needs right then and there in that very first statement. And so my question would be, something that you need to consider is, on your present job, which you're writing me about, are those needs being met in this job? And I would have to say no. And it's like one of my clients I was talking to, once we went through all his driving force needs, I think it was about 8 of them, I said, this job that you just got fired from, how many of those driving force needs, the things that you're most passionate about, how many of those were met in your previous job that you got fired from? He laughed. He said, none of them. I said, does any wonder why you got fired? It wasn't pushing your buttons. It wasn't doing it for you. So he continues on. Recently, I decided I had more to offer the world than to just be a soldier. I had already done what the military had to offer. I decided on a career change, working as a financial planner, and for the past several months, I've been working full-time as a financial planner. Well, that's a pretty big change to go from being a professional soldier to advising people about their retirements, being a financial planner, in essence. So my question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how emotionally compelling is being a financial planner to you? And why did you choose that in the first place? Did you choose it because you had a love and you had a passion for finance and numbers and IRAs and 401ks and Roth IRAs and all those things? And if the answer is no to that, then you're doing the wrong thing. He says, so far the transition has been disastrous. I'm extremely accustomed to the consistent pay, structure, and the discipline of the military. He says also, I find it extremely difficult to function when not in a group atmosphere. So here you're working in a job to where some of your most important critical things that you love and you have a passion for, those needs, those driving force needs of yours, are not being met. That's a huge reason why you're struggling, because it's not aligned with your true nature of who you really are, the things that really jazz you. He says, I used to be one of the strongest and most successful soldiers I knew. Now I'm struggling to work independently. I'm used to giving orders and not convincing people I'm getting paid consistently anymore. So in other words, you're in sales now. He says, in short, this new job is giving me the shock of my life. I'm used to being successful. How can I turn this into a success? Can deep-seated habits like these change, or am I just killing myself for no reason? Am I better off trying something more up my alley? Potentially. We'll get to that in a second. What would you do? Are there any products that you would recommend? Well, a phone session with yours truly, well, I promise you by the end of the phone session, we'll get to the real root cause of what's really driving you and what you should be looking to do job-wise or career-wise. But here's what I know about financial planning, because I coach a lot of guys that do what you're presently doing for a living. And all of those guys, it's a commission type of position where if you're not meeting with people and demonstrating or telling them about your products and then giving them the choice to choose your potential products where you make a commission on it, you're not making any money. And the clients that I coach, what I work with them is I ask them, what are your income goals? Okay, well, what is it going to take in order for you to achieve that income? How many appointments must you have on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis to meet that? How many sales must you have? And then we divide that by 12 and you break it down into monthly goals. And then we break that down into how many people he must physically meet with per week in order to convert those people to a sale. And so, like one of my clients that I talk to on a regular basis about this, half of his clients come from existing clients that the company already has. So what he does is he cold calls them, these existing clients, and he brings them in to do an analysis on their portfolio. And obviously they come in, and the idea is to shift some of the money around and put them in different products or get involved in different products, and he gets a nice commission off of that. And the other half, where he makes really good money, is bringing in brand new people to the company, whether maybe their assets are managed by another financial planner or another financial company, and then obviously he gets the commission for that. But the bottom line is you have to be able to go out there and meet and socialize with these particular people. And so in that case, being able to do that, to go to join like Toastmasters or country clubs or social gatherings, social events, where affluent people who are going to have a significant amount of assets that can potentially be managed, or even companies where they can bring a bunch of employees over and have their company manage them. You've got to be good at establishing rapport with people. You've got to like sitting down with people and shooting the shit, because sales really breaks. I used to train a lot of salespeople in my own company, and I still work with a lot of salespeople in my coaching practice now. The key to sales is first and foremost is making a friend. And how do you make a friend? It's just like I talk about in my book. That's why I teach that the guy should be asking most of the questions and being a really good listener, getting the woman to talk, and being really sincerely, authentically interested in who she is as a woman. That creates rapport. When somebody asks you, because we all love to talk about ourselves. We all think internally our favorite subject is what? Us. And so when we encounter somebody who wants to know all about us, we think, I like this guy. This guy's really cool. You're a great person. Why? Because you're asking me about me, and most people don't do that. And so that creates rapport. So like when I used to do buyer's consultations with people, and when I used to teach my salespeople when they did buyer's consultations, the first half hour, 20 minutes, 40 minutes of your meeting is not talking about the loan that you're going to offer them or where you're going to find them a house at. The idea is to just make a new friend. Sit down, ask them about their kids, where they went to school, where they grew up, what they like to do, what they do in their free time, where they work at, all those kinds of things, establishing rapport with them, getting to know them. Because after you sit there and you listen for 20, 30, 40 minutes, whatever it happens to be, naturally, by the law of reciprocity, they're going to feel obligated. Well, like, wow, I've just sat here and talked about myself for the last 20, 30 minutes. My God, well, let me find out about you. It creates rapport, because now you weren't thinking you're going to get a sales pitch, but instead you feel like you're talking to one of your friends you've known forever, or like ran into an old high school buddy and you're chit-chatting with them forever. So it totally disarms the prospect. And it's much harder to say no to somebody who you feel like is your friend versus somebody who you go in like a car dealership and they're trying to stuff you into a car loan or a car that you really don't want, because they're just interested in making a sales commission. So you establish rapport, you get them like you, and once they like you, then they start to trust you. And then once you've established that rapport, then you start talking about your product or service what you have to offer. So, the guy that wrote me this email, obviously, since you're on a commission basis, you might be on like a small salary with a commission, and it sounds like it's obviously not enough to pay your bills, and you're used to that steady paycheck. Now, people that love the challenge of convincing people, because the most successful salespeople love the challenge of meeting somebody new, establishing rapport, creating that friendship. They love the whole process of that. And if you don't like that process, if you don't like talking with people and getting to know them and establishing rapport and doing all those things, then you're definitely in the wrong career. But if this was something you really loved and you had a passion for, but you're just struggling with it, what you got to focus on first thing, create some rapport by just asking them questions, just like I talk about with being successful with women in my book. Once you do that, that establishes a friendship. That causes them to like you. And once people start to like you, guess what? They start to trust you. And if they start to trust you, then when you go into your sales pitch and start telling them about your product or service to offer, it's very hard for them to say no, because now you're a friend, you're their buddy. Whereas if you're just an obnoxious salesperson, you go right into your sales pitch in the beginning, you haven't taken any time to establish rapport, and they haven't started to like you, now you're just another jackass salesperson. And if they don't like you, guess what? If somebody doesn't like you, they're not going to trust you. If they don't trust you, it doesn't matter if you got the winning lottery number and you can guarantee it. If they don't trust you, you ain't doing business with them. That's just the bottom fucking line. But if you're in charge of getting your own clients, you have to ask yourself, where are people like this congregating on a massive scale? Country clubs, things of that nature, social functions, Chamber of Commerce events, things of that nature. Where do people with money congregate? And involving yourself in those organizations so you can establish friendships and getting to know people. And if that doesn't appeal to you, the thought of going and doing that to get people to basically come to your office and sit down and talk about investments, then you are definitely, because a lot of people go and do these things and they think about all the money they can make. But if they don't like the process of what they have to do to earn the money, then they're in the wrong place. So, but what I've read here in your email, you like structure, you like a steady paycheck, you like being part of a team. These are driving force needs. These are essential needs that need to be met of yours, and it doesn't sound like they're being met because you're basically an independent contractor, an independent salesperson in the business that you're in, so you don't feel like you're a part of something. That's definitely going to make you feel like you're missing something. So what I would suggest to you is what I discussed about establishing rapport with people and because all commission salespeople have to deal with what I just shared, especially if they're responsible for getting their own leads, whether you're an attorney or a real estate agent, mortgage broker, selling yachts, whatever it happens to be. You've got to be good at establishing rapport and convincing people to buy your product or service. But there is a process to do that. If you're a salesperson and you'd like me to help you maximize your effort and your time so you can increase your commissions, definitely book a phone session with me. But the guy that wrote this particular email in, I would say what you need to do is write down all the things that you really love, like what you loved about being a soldier. You've already shared 3 or 4 of them here. What are some other things that you really love and you have a passion for that you feel like are missing from your current position? And then once you have those written down, what the next step is going to be after that is then to start doing some research. Because from what it sounds like you're more of like an employee type of mindset, and you can still make a lot of money as an employee. You just have to go and work in a structured environment where you believe in the product or the service that particular company happens to offer, and you have a passion for it. Because if you have a passion for it, you'll study it, you'll work, you'll learn, you'll ask questions, you'll talk to the people that are the most successful people that are there. You'll learn from them. You'll get career advice from them. You'll ask them how they got to where they are. You'll do those little things so you can become a better employee. Because whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, it's all about adding value. Your ability to earn income is directly proportional to how much value you add to either your customers' lives, if you're an entrepreneur and in business for yourself, or the customers' lives of the business that you happen to work for if you happen to be an employee for a company. And the better you do, the more your skills grow and your experience grows, and the more you have a passion for something, the harder you're going to work at it, and the better you're going to become at it. Because you probably heard me say many times, repetition is the mother of skill. Excellence is not a singular act, it's a habit. You are what you do repeatedly. Aristotle said this thousands of years ago, and it's still true to this day. So if you can work at adding value to either your own customers' lives or the customers' lives of the company that you happen to work for, you're going to make yourself more valuable to that particular company. And the more value you add, the more experience you have, the more your skill set grows, the more you have the ability to move up the corporate ladder, so to speak, and earn even more income and take on even more responsibility. You learn that job, you learn that position, and guess what? Now you're even more valuable than you were before. And you just keep moving up the ladder until you ultimately become CEO, and you can make a lot of money that way. Now, if you run into a company where there's just really not much more opportunity for growth, then maybe you make a lateral move and you go work for a competitor or a different company. The idea is to keep moving up the ladder, but you gotta choose something that you love and you have a passion for and that is aligned with your nature. And just like this particular guy, from what I've seen here when he wrote, it looks like his values are really not aligned with what the position that he has to offer. And a lot of people make this mistake when they see how much money they could potentially earn, especially like people that go into MLMs and stuff. They have no passion for the product. They don't believe in the product or the service or what they're offering. They're just looking at the big paycheck they can make. And that's what's interesting about MLMs. That's all they really focus on is the lifestyle and all the money you're going to make if you become a part of their MLM. That's what most people drop out of it because they're really not passionate about it. The only ones that really make it are the people that love MLMs and they love the process about building a business within that kind of a structure. So if you'd like to get my help personally to figure out what your driving force needs is so you can figure out which way is the best way to go, which is the best type of career to choose for you, or to help you figure out what your purpose is, what you really love, what you really want to do, then go to my website, click the products tab at the top of your screen on any page of my website, and just follow the instructions, and I'm happy to help and work with you to figure out what your purpose is in life and what your driving force needs, and to help you get a job, a career, or a business going that you can really love and you can really have a passion for, so someday you can make the kind of money that you feel you deserve and you really want. Remember, the only way you're going to get there is if you really love and you believe in the product or service that you're offering, whether it's your own company or somebody else's company that you happen to be working for. And if you get that wrong, it's going to fuck up every other area of your life. Your health, and think about it. If you're miserable in your job, you're not going to want to go to work. You're not going to want to go to the gym. You're not going to want to take good care of yourself. You're not going to want to eat right. It's going to affect your ability to show up in your relationships and your friendships. It's definitely something to think about. And I will talk to you soon.